All right, thanks for being here today. Obviously, a great weekend for Razorback athletics. A lot of fun. Obviously, excited to get spring ball started yesterday. Would like to have gone outside, but I think the weather dictated otherwise. But at least day one in the books, a lot to learn from, a lot of great things, and then a lot of things that we're going to sit there back and say we can improve upon. But the right mindset and right approach by the guys out there, I thought they attacked the field and the work with enthusiasm, with passion, and understanding what we want this thing to look like. Details got to get cleaned up, obviously, a day one installation. But then the biggest jump has to be from day one to day two and how we go about our business. And then obviously day two to day three later on this week when we put on the pads. But, pleased with it and excited to watch the film with the guys this afternoon and continue to make progress.
You mentioned just a couple of things there you were pleased with and disappointed with, but what maybe just kind of jumped out to you, like maybe a player or a position group or anything like that, and anything that you specifically want to see?
Yeah, listen, I always hate, and I'm careful to, single out single players or position groups this early, right? Because, it's literally the next day it could be a complete opposite. The biggest thing I was pleased with is the competitive nature of these guys. You have a certain wonder of what it looks like. You see how they are in the weight room and in the off-season stuff, in a January, February, and even earlier this month, especially as we've done some of the off-season competition stuff. But then when football happens, what does that look like? And Trey, I think I was pleased because every rep from the get-go, even the walkthrough stuff of special teams, it was the competitive mindset and spirit of this group. And that's not coach speaking. That's something that you got to hang your hat on. And then you get to see some of these guys, a Cece who was hurt all last year, step up and do some good things, competitive. Bradley Shaw, who was a starter last year that I challenged and told him he's got to play better and, had a good day one. So, but I think what you're seeing is we got depth at certain positions. Now, how high that ceiling is and how low that floor is to be determined. We got a lot of time to determine that, but I think we got some depth, and I like the way they attack the work.
How do you decide on day one who's at the front of the line, who goes in first? At pretty much every position, is it seniority based? Is it if all things are equal? Or
yeah, we made the joke last week about the press conference about the quarterback situation, a coin flip, and that truly is. So KJ got all the reps, the majority of the reps with the ones, and then tomorrow's practice, AJ Hill will get the majority of the reps with the one. So it's kind of literally, I think what we're going to decide at that position is almost alternating days. Like I said, sometimes you can get into a rhythm and you don't want to just constantly changing that out. And then at other spots, it was okay. Some of the stuff we'd seen in the offseason, stuff we've seen in previous years. It's very hard day one just to put a freshman up there. Danny Beal's doing some good things, but you're never going to have a true freshman. Hey, why don't you go ahead and jump to that front of the line? Guys, Quincy Rhodes, who I'm going to continue to challenge. Obviously, Quincy's played a lot of football here and done it at a high level, so it made sense for him to go with the ones. But I told him, I said, listen, every day, you're going to be battling your tail off to earn that spot and continue to get better. And I think that mindset and that approach with some of these guys, whether they were a starter at another Power 4 team or coming from an FCS program, everybody has that opportunity. And literally, we as coaches, and this, again, we don't set the depth chart, they are. And there's no depth chart right now. We're just kind of throwing it out there and seeing what happens. I think when you're going to get to see the majority of, hey, this guy may get more reps with that first group, is once the pads go on. And then, after that first scrimmage and seeing what they're all about. And then a lot of times who can push through, who can run to the ball appropriately. All those things that we're going to determine that are important for us as a football program are going to go into the day-to-day and ultimately who gets to go out there with that first group.
So you'll be outside tomorrow if at all possible then, huh?
If at all possible. Even if I got to throw another sweatshirt on and steal Kyle's beanie, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I was also going to ask you about what we can read into. Who's with the first wide receivers? Who's with the first D-line, O-line? Not much to read into that at this point?
Yeah, I would really say that. I get it, and like I always say, I have so much respect for what you guys do, but I wouldn't read too much into that. I think it's just a general basis of let's go with it. And those pieces can move so quickly and day-to-day reality of this whole thing. And sometimes we're going to say, okay, even at offensive line, like how does this guy work with this center, right? And how does this guy work at this position? So I think just that flexibility, it may be a wide receiver that we really think this guy's an X, but the guy behind him is pretty damn good. So maybe he can be the X and this guy can, let's see how this guy looks at the number one Z and moving those guys around, different guys in the backfield based off what we're doing. if we're, going back to the tight end question a couple weeks ago, like if we're 12 personnel, that will dictate some of those different things. So let's not read too much into it. Again, getting a feel for these guys, what they can do as a defense, installing a new scheme. Obviously, new schemes in all three phases, but I wouldn't read too much into it.
So you got two position coaches coming in to talk to us in 2 days, running backs, tight ends. I was wondering if you could hone in on those two spots. And at running back, Sutton seemed to be kind of I'll get to the front of the line type of guy. So how many running backs do you like to run in an ideal situation? And then what are your thoughts on those two position groups?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, let's start with the running backs. Just so you guys know, David Johnson, Yak Johnson, and we have a history. Obviously, we're together at Memphis, and I'd been to his high school when he was a head high school coach, and he's all over. And obviously, he's been, Tennessee and Florida State. So great confidence in him coming in, coaching our running backs. But with that being said, with what he's been able to do, is a guy like Sutton Smith had a pretty good understanding of this offensive scheme. Now, we're going to change things. We're going to have some wrinkles in, obviously, and continue to improve what we can do offensively, with Coach Cramsey and the rest of the staff. But Sutton has a good understanding. Now, that does not mean Sutton's a starting running back. That means he's going to have those opportunities, but he's a pretty darn good running back. And, challenged Braylon Russell as well. Is like, man, hey, Braylon, I want to be able to see you maximize what you're doing every single day on the practice field. And really, I got to give credit where credit's due. Braylon Russell's lost some weight. He is a healthier 230-pound running back right now, and we're going to talk to him. Maybe is his best weight 225, or is it 235? And he looks really good, and he leans up and can run. But I was pleased with his effort because, like I told every single person in this program, every single person, even anybody that we held over, like everybody's got a clean slate, but you got to go prove it. And Braylon, regardless of what was said in the past, has just stepped up and he's worked his tail off. And so high expectations for him. And then, we got guys, Bat and Settles, guys that, part of this program that we have high expectations for that can do it. And you got some of these other running backs. TJ Hodges is a young, true freshman that, the first couple of weeks it was, man, welcome to college football. And now all of a sudden he's going out there and seeing where he's at. Jasper Brinkley, the transfer running back, right? That's, kind of getting a feel for this system and understanding how we do things in pass protection. So that running back room has guys I think that we all feel like are capable. But I do. I'm really excited about what they are. You get to see them run around now. What are they going to look like on contact balance come Thursday? And what's pass protection really look like? It's easy when it's, one of the position coaches running at them with a bag at 3 miles per hour, right? It's a little bit different when it's a 230-pound SEC linebacker trying to saw them in half, okay? And then the tight end room, we talked about before, a lot of faith in Jaden Platt. Obviously, he's played the most football here. And then you guys, you got two different type of fullback tight end types, and like a Maddox Lassiter and a Matt Adcock. And those two still can line up and be, wide receiving type tight ends, but, are probably built more like fullback types, more types that are going to try to put their screws in your neck. And then, just kind of seeing what else we have in those rooms and getting a feel for what we have. We've got a couple transfers in that tight end room that we're excited to see. But, again, I think that tight end position, just like the running back, you'll get to know a little bit more. They all look good running around right now, right? But then when the physicality happens at both those spots, it'll be interesting to see how they continue to develop.
Coach, I had a couple offensive line questions for you. You've got two different quarterbacks. One throws left-handed, one throws right-handed. Does that change anything for up front for the offensive line? Do they switch sides? Do they have different play calls?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You get read back and like everybody thinks the most famous left-handed quarterback would be like a Steve Young, right? Like when Montana Young did that change, and you hear some of these teams now talking about like a quick tackle, and I think Vanderbilt even talked about flipping their offensive line. I've never done that, and I think we feel comfortable with wherever those guys feel the best up front. Now, you want the ability for your offensive lineman, right? Like a left guard should be able to play right guard. You want as many guard bodies that can play center. You want a couple of those centers, if they have the ability to do it, to be able to play guard, and then can those tackles flip, right? That swing tackle, and a lot of that's my old NFL mindset. Like, you only get to travel with 7 linemen. Well, that backup offensive tackle better be able to go play right tackle, or better be able to play left tackle, and that guard better be able to snap. And so I think that's kind of what we're doing with our guys, is kind of day one, hey, this is where you're going to be, but we're never change it based off of who the quarterbacks are.
And then a lot of the guys you brought over with you from Memphis are guys that have played a lot of ball, but one of them is Josiah Clemens that redshirted last year. What about him did you like? What made you want him to come over here and be part of the Arkansas program?
Yeah, I think we had this discussion not too long ago. Is like, everybody wants guys that come in the transfer like, oh, they're immediate starters. No, I think sometimes you still got to build a roster and build it the right way. And that's not to say that Josiah can't have a major role for us. No different. Ian Williams, was really the only young defensive player we brought over from Memphis. And, Ian played some special teams last year. And I told Ian, I said, it's your opportunity to go figure out if you can play defense here. And so Josiah is a guy that, recruited out of high school. In fact, one time was committed to another SEC school and, just stayed on him and told him about the things that, his development process as an offensive lineman, and just developed a great relationship with him. And ultimately felt like when this move was made, it was the right step for him to come and continue to be a part of this thing. But he's got, if you look at him, he looks the part. He's got great feet and he's got a great attitude about himself. But I think he has a tremendous, tremendous ceiling. And Josiah is one of those guys, I think, whether it's this year or in a couple of years, we're going to sit there and say, oh, I can see why you got that kid.
Same kind of question with Matt Adcock. You talked about him having kind of the fullback build, but what was it about him that made him a guy you wanted to bring over with you?
He's a tough sucker. And I think you can never, I think when you're building a roster, and listen, every year, hopefully we're not doing the full, all right, let's talk about these 65 new players. Hopefully it's a lot less next year for all of us in this room. But Matt was one of those guys, like, the way he plays football, right? His approach, first and foremost, like, he loves special teams, right? And people say, well, you just got, it's great. Yeah, got to get the quarterback, go get the receivers, all those things. But when you can find guys that are buy into your culture, and I hate to say it's just a program guy because he's played a lot of football. He's played meaningful football. He's caught touchdown passes. He's been a fullback blocking, and being able to play meaningful football, understand the culture and the way we do things, and have that tough mentality about what we're trying to do here at Arkansas, I thought was a perfect fit. And, he knows that he may not go out there and get, 50 catches this year at tight end, but whatever's asked for him of anybody in this organization, he'll do. And so that made the right fit at the right time.
Courtney Crutchfield was a guy last year that people were excited about, but just didn't ever really find an opportunity. What have been your impressions of him? I know you've had the one practice, but since you've kind of been working with these guys for the last couple of months, what have you thought of what he's done?
Yeah, Courtney's got to continue to make strides in the right direction. He has played very limited football at the college level. Obviously, he was a highly touted high school player. We're going to continue to lean on Crutch to step up and make plays. You're right, just one day into it. But, challenging him, hey, this is the way we practice. This is the way we go about doing things. And we've got you look around the wide receiver room, there's no, this is the guy, right? C.J. Brown's played some good football. Like I told you guys, I was pleased with some of the stuff CC did yesterday. But Crutchfield's going to have to step up, and he's going to have to battle his tail off. And, and I'm challenging him also as well. Like, hey, there's no guarantee that you're going to make the travel roster. And if you're not playing special teams, I'm not saying this is the case, but any of those guys, right, going into year 3, you have to find a way to step up and help us. And he's one of those that I'm kind of holding his feet to the fire and saying, hey, this is what needs to be done. And he understands that. And I'm excited because I think, like, one day in, then what's tomorrow going to look like? And what's the next day? So to watch his growth, because he certainly has the talent.